If I said Matthew Perry did a lot of drugs, that's true, but it might sound a little harsh in English. So if you want to make it a little nicer, you can change drugs to substance abuse. Native English speakers will know what that means. You could say Matthew Perry has had substance abuse throughout his life.
Major break in the investigation of actor Matthew Perry's tragic death last October. Following months of investigation into how the Friend star obtained a fatal dose of drugs, search warrants were executed across Southern California.
All right, so let's get into the first one here. Major break. In the picture, you can see what looks like maybe two detectives trying to solve a crime. Major break. Finding something important that will help solve the case, a tip or a clue. For each of these terms, I will have an official definition and I will also use that term in a sentence. So here is the sentence for major break. The police had a major break in the case when they found evidence linked to Matthew Perry's death. Evidence might be a new word for you, but that is proof. Those are things that can help you solve the crime. If somebody stole a car, some of the evidence might be finding their fingerprints on the steering wheel. Major break can also mean like some really good luck. Take a look at that picture. Looks like somebody is in the crowd, or are they singing? Let's make it a little bigger. Well, there's a microphone there, so it looks like she is singing. Here's a sentence I have for that. Her major break came when she met a very talented songwriter. But of course, break can mean like to make it not functional anymore, like you can't use it anymore. If this microphone broke, you would no longer be able to hear me. Take a look at that picture. It looks like a toy robot, but it is clearly broken. Yeah, break is an irregular verb. In the past tense, it becomes broke. Very sad here. The father broke his son's favorite toy when he stepped on it. And if you're anything like me as a dad, I would probably blame the child immediately if I stepped on his favorite toy. Like, why didn't you pick up this room? So mean. Lots of tears, I'm sure. Just a quick interruption. If you are liking this video, do you mind hitting that like button? And if you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. Also, you might want to become a channel member. I have over 100 bonus English lessons there. Just last week, I released an English lesson about what does "don't drink the Kool-Aid" mean. All right, now back to the lesson. Investigation. It is a noun. Investigate is the verb. But what is an investigation? A careful search or study to find out the truth about something. So Matthew Perry's death is being investigated. There is an investigation into Matthew Perry's death. Here's a sentence. The police are conducting an investigation to learn more about what caused Matthew Perry's death. Tragic. Native English speakers love to use this word. What does it mean? Very sad. Usually because someone has died or something terrible has happened. It was tragic to hear about Matthew Perry's sudden death.
Major break in the investigation of actor Matthew Perry's tragic death last October. Following months of investigation into how the Friend star obtained a fatal dose of drugs, search warrants were executed across Southern California.
Obtained. It's a really fancy way to say got or receive. You now have something. To get something, especially after trying or searching for it. The police obtained new information about who might be involved in the death of Matthew Perry. Fatal. This is never a good word. It means someone or something has died. The official definition, causing death. The drug overdose turned out to be fatal for Matthew Perry. So an overdose of drugs means you have too many drugs inside your body. You don't always die if you overdose on drugs. If you can get medical attention soon, you could be saved. If you look at that picture, sad to say, but that might have been a fatal accident. Whoever was in that car may have died.
Following months of investigation into how the Friend star obtained a fatal dose of drugs, search warrants were executed across Southern California.
Let's talk about search warrants. The police cannot just go into anyone's house because they want to. They need to visit a judge to get something we call a search warrant. What is a search warrant? Legal documents that allow the police to search a person's property for evidence. Here's a sentence using search warrants. But hang on. We talked about investigation earlier. That's a noun. Investigate is a verb. Investigators are people who are investigating something. The investigators got search warrants to look for clues in the homes of those connected to Matthew Perry's death. I want to be very careful with this next one because there are two very different ways we use executed, but both have something to do with a crime. This first one, let me make the picture a little bigger. It's a SWAT team. That means police officers who have a lot more protection that they are wearing and probably bigger guns than normal police officers. But we can use executed when it comes to search warrants. Look right down there at the bottom. To carry out or put a plan into action. The police executed the search warrants early in the morning, hoping to find more evidence. So in this way, executed means to do something, to carry it out. English phrasal verb there, carry out. But this can be a little controversial to some people. In the United States, some states have something we call the death penalty. If you commit a crime that's so bad, some states will put you to death. And in that picture, we would call that an electric chair. So here's a definition using executed like somebody dying. It means to kill someone as a form of punishment in an organized way. I live in the state of Maine. We do not have the death penalty in my state, but Texas is a state that's very famous for its death penalty. Here's an example sentence. In some countries, criminals can be executed for serious crimes, like really, really bad crimes.
Search warrants were executed across Southern California. 5 suspects, including 2 doctors and a woman cops call the ketamine queen of Los Angeles, have been arrested.
The next one is ketamine. I'm sorry, in that picture, I did spell it wrong. Down below, that is the right spelling. It has an E instead of an A after the K. Before watching the news about Matthew Perry's death, I had never heard of ketamine. But if you're watching the news and you're seeing an investigation about Matthew Perry's death, you will probably hear ketamine. What is it? A strong drug that can be used as a medicine or abused for its effects. So doctors could prescribe ketamine and people would be just fine. But if you take too much ketamine, just like any drug, you can overdose on it. Here's a sentence. Ketamine was reportedly found in Matthew Perry's system at the time of his death. In English, we have systems of the body. So you have like a digestive system, which helps break down the food you eat. But when I hear Matthew Perry's system, I'm thinking mostly blood.
Major break in the investigation of actor Matthew Perry's tragic death last October. Following months of investigation into how the Friend star obtained a fatal dose of drugs, search warrants were executed across Southern California. 5 suspects, including 2 doctors and a woman cops call the ketamine queen of Los Angeles, have been arrested.
Stunning developments in the death of Matthew Perry. Law enforcement today announced the arrests of 2 doctors and 3 others in connection with the actor's fatal overdose. The arrests come 10 months after Perry drowned in his hot tub and followed dogged investigations by the DEA, U.S. Postal Service, and LAPD.
Stunning developments. If something is stunning, it can be quite surprising. The official definition below: shocking or surprising new information. There were stunning developments in the investigation when 5 people were arrested for their connection to Matthew Perry's death. Yes, almost 1 year after Matthew Perry died, The investigation showed that there could be some people who were responsible for his death. They probably won't be charged with murder, like they didn't actually kill him with a knife or a gun, but because they gave him drugs, they could be responsible for his death. We might call that manslaughter in English. Overdose, I've talked about this already, but let's get an official definition. Taking too much of a drug, which can be very dangerous or cause death. The doctors believe that Matthew Perry died from a drug overdose, and that drug is probably ketamine, Ketamine. Dogged. You might know what a dog is. This is something different. It's an adjective describing something. Being very determined and not giving up easily. The investigators were dogged in their search for answers about Matthew Perry's death. I hope you are dogged when it comes to learning English. You will never quit. You will keep learning for the rest of your life. Before we get to DEA, let me use dogged one more time in a sentence. Hopefully you have dogged determination to learn English. But what is the DEA? It's an acronym. So the D stands for a word, E stands for a word, and A stands for a word. What are those words? The Drug Enforcement Administration. It's very hard to say. So instead of saying all that, we will just say DEA. They are a government agency that fights drug crimes. The DEA. Here's a sentence using DEA. The DEA is involved in the investigation because drugs like ketamine were found in the case. Yeah, the case of Matthew Perry's death. Another acronym, LAPD. So the L stands for something, the A, let's talk about it. The Los Angeles Police Department. That's what LAPD stands for. They are responsible for keeping order in Los Angeles. The LAPD is leading the investigation into Matthew Perry's death.
Stunning developments in the death of Matthew Perry. Law enforcement today announced the arrests of 2 doctors and 3 others in connection with the actor's fatal overdose. The arrests come 10 months after Perry drowned in his hot tub and followed dogged investigations by the DEA, U.S. Postal Service, and LAPD.
The next news clip we will watch involves Megyn Kelly. I really like watching her because she doesn't talk like a news reporter. She will say some very common native English sayings, and I think it will be great to help you learn how to speak more like a native English speaker.
Bunch of people are being indicted today in connection with Matthew Perry's death from ketamine usage, an overdose.
A bunch of people. You can say a bunch of pretty much anything if there are a lot of something. Bunch of people. What does it mean? A casual way to say a large group of people. A bunch of people were talking about Matthew Perry's death on social media. This is a legal term, indicted. That's how you say that word, indicted. What does it mean? Officially charged with a serious crime. Officially charged with a serious crime. The 5 suspects were indicted after new evidence was found in Matthew Perry's death investigation. Ooh, lots of big words there. You might want to watch this English lesson twice. It's so complicated.
Bunch of people are being indicted today in connection with Matthew Perry's death from ketamine usage, an overdose. This is a drug that they're giving more and more. You're only supposed to do this, if at all, under controlled settings with a doctor, an MD who can monitor you.
Controlled settings. If Matthew Perry had taken that ketamine in a controlled setting, he might still be alive today. Let's talk about what controlled settings mean. Environments that are carefully managed and monitored. So if Matthew Perry was taking this drug in a controlled setting, that would mean he would go to the doctors regularly. He would go there often to make sure the ketamine wasn't doing damage to his body. It sounds like Matthew Perry was taking way too many doses of this ketamine. The drug ketamine is sometimes used in controlled settings by doctors to treat depression. And depression is when somebody is super, super sad for like many days or many months or even many years. Depression is a type of very serious sadness. So serious, you may have to take medications to make you feel better. I would like to teach you the term willy-nilly. Sounds fun, right? People should not take dangerous medicine willy-nilly. That's the opposite of a controlled setting. Willy-nilly pretty much means there are no rules. Just do whatever you want.
Matthew Perry's death from ketamine usage, an overdose. This is a drug that they're giving more and more. You're only supposed to do this, if at all, under controlled settings with a doctor, an MD who can monitor you. It is being used with some success to treat depression.
They use the term MD. It is an acronym. The M stands for medical and the D stands for doctor. A good MD should have prescribed ketamine to Matthew Perry. I've talked about this verb before, monitor. You might be watching me on a computer monitor, a screen. This is different. This is the verb. To carefully watch or check something. The police continue to monitor the suspects as part of their investigation into Matthew Perry's death. I talked about depression earlier. Let's get an official definition. A mental health condition that makes people feel very sad and hopeless for a long time. Hopeless. That means there is no hope. Matthew Perry was open about his struggle with depression and addiction. Yeah, it's crazy. Right before Matthew Perry died, like in October of last year, I read his autobiography. I found it very interesting because I did watch Friends growing up. I never knew how much Matthew Perry was addicted to drugs, even while filming the show.
An MD who can monitor you. It is being used with some success to treat depression. I know people who have tried this, so I don't mean to crap all over ketamine. But for people who are using it to find their way out of abuse of drugs already, it seems problematic.
All right, you got to love Megyn Kelly. She says crap all over. So what does that mean? To say bad things about somebody or something. Some people have crapped all over Matthew Perry's doctors for not monitoring him closely enough. Yeah, saying bad things about people. You might do it out loud, or you might do it like they are in the picture, probably spreading rumors. Problematic. It's a great adjective. And if you look at that picture, I'll make it bigger here. Looks like this car is being problematic. It looks like it has broken down on the side of the road. The woman is on a cell phone and she has the hood up. Maybe she's looking at the engine under there. Problematic. It has problem in it, right? Causing problems or being difficult to deal with. Her car had become problematic. It would break down on her often. Here's another way to use problematic when it's not related to Matthew Perry's death. Their marriage had become problematic. They agreed to get a divorce. That is going to do it. Hopefully you know a little more about Matthew Perry. His death was definitely tragic. If you would like me to talk more about this in English lessons, leave a comment. Say, I want more Matthew Perry, and I will do that. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time.